remember me. Please tell Pharaoh about me, and please get me released from this place. Okay, and just like Joseph had interpreted the dream, just like Joseph told the meaning of the dream, after 3 days, King celebrates his birthday, and on his birthday he gives a feast to all the officials working in his palace, and he releases both of these people, the chief butler and the baker, and he promotes the chief butler. He puts the chief butler back into his position once again, but the chief baker was found guilty, and Pharaoh hangs him. But the sad part once again is the chief butler, he completely forgot about Joseph. And 2 years go by, and Joseph continues to suffer in prison. And now comes the appointed time of the Lord. The king of Egypt, Pharaoh himself, has a dream, and nobody in his entire country is able to interpret the dreams. So, guess what? Joseph had to come to interpret that dream. So Pharaoh has a dream and nobody is able to interpret, and that is the time this chief butler remembers his mistake, and he comes and confesses in front of Pharaoh. Please forgive me, sir. This is what happened while I was in prison, and I completely forgot about this person. But he is able to tell the meaning of our dreams, and immediately, Joseph is ordered to be released out of the prison, and he's made to stand in front of the king. So Joseph cleans up himself, shaves, puts on good clothes, and comes and stands in front of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. So now, from dungeon, Joseph is hastily brought out of the dungeon directly into palace. 13 years have passed by since he was sold as a slave to Egypt when he was 17 years old at that time. Now Joseph is 30 years old when he stood in front of Pharaoh. So 13 long years of suffering has now come to an end, and Joseph was brought out of the dungeon, and he is made to stand in the palace and right in front of the king, and observe what Joseph says here. Once again, he does not have any bitterness, complaint, anger, frustration towards God. But look at the words of Joseph. Genesis chapter 41 and 6. Did you observe? Look at him. Look at the humility of Joseph. Even after suffering all these things, he doesn't have any complaint against God. He doesn't have any bitterness towards his brothers. But he is humbling himself, and he says, "It is not in me. This is not my own ability. It is the gift of God. It is from God." And then he later gives the interpretation of that dream. He tells the meaning of that dream, and he says that in the coming 7 years there will be plenty of food in the land, and the following 7 years there will be complete famine everywhere, so that even the food that was stored earlier would not be sufficient, and people will start suffering from starvation, and they will forget their plentiful days, and everyone will start suffering from starvation because of the severe famine. And Joseph also gives the solution to this matter, and he says what action should be taken in order to avoid this kind of a starvation situation, and how to save the lives of people. And Joseph says to the king, kindly appoint somebody who is able to handle all these matters in a wise way. And Pharaoh who is very impressed to hear of all these things coming out of this young man of 30 years old. I'm sure that Pharaoh, of course, the king, he knows how to handle matters, and he must have been a good judge of characters. So he quickly identified that the spirit of God was upon Joseph. Immediately he recognized that Joseph was not an ordinary person, and there was something great about him. So immediately, Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, he recognizes God's hand upon Joseph, and God's wisdom and God's spirit on Joseph, and he says like this.
And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt."
Now, all of a sudden, the prisoner Joseph has become the prime minister of Egypt, next to king in position and power. Can you imagine? Joseph is now exalted to the highest position, and Pharaoh also finds a bride for him, and Joseph gets married to Asenath, and then later he has two children whose names are Manasseh and Ephraim. Now, on the other side, when Joseph's elder brothers had sold Joseph as a slave to Ishmaelites, they thought that's the end of Joseph's dream. They thought we will never meet again, and he has gone his way, and we go our way, and all this is the end of Joseph's dream. But they were wrong. So, just as Joseph had interpreted the dream of Pharaoh, for the next following 7 years, there was plenty of produce, there was prosperity in the land. And Joseph had very wisely, he had built storehouses, and he stored all the food in those storehouses. So 7 years of plenty had ended, and now the other following 7 years of famine, severe famine, had just started. 2 years went by, and the grain in the whole country and the surrounding places, was over, and now people were running short of food in both Egypt and in the surrounding places. So back in Jacob's house also, the grain was getting over, and there was shortage of food. So Jacob tells his sons to go down to Egypt and buy grain for their family. So the 10 brothers of Joseph, they traveled down to Egypt to buy grain. Now remember, it's been quite a long time now. It's been 13 plus 9 years. So it's been a long time. The teenager boy that Joseph once was, when his elder brothers had sold him. Now he's a young man, and now he's in his mid-age. So obviously, when his elder brothers came and stood in front of him, they could not recognize Joseph. But Joseph surely recognized his elder brother. So in Genesis chapter 42, verse 6, that day finally comes. And Joseph's elder brothers, they come to they come to Egypt, and when they come and stand in front of Joseph, they bow down their faces even to the ground, and they don't realize that it is Joseph who is standing in front of them, and his dreams have now come true, and what God said to Joseph in his dream is true, and it is now a reality. This is the first time that Joseph's elder brothers are bowing down in front of him, but they do not recognize it is Joseph. But Joseph does recognize them, and Joseph doesn't immediately reveal himself to them, and Joseph wants to find out if his elder brothers have changed, or if they are the same people even to this day. So he tests them in different ways. You can read about that in Genesis chapter 42 and 43. In Genesis 43 16, once again we see the elder brothers of Joseph bowing down in front of Joseph. Well, there is definitely a happy ending to this life event. Finally, we see Joseph's elder brothers have come to the end of themselves, and now they are repenting for their mistake, and they are confessing their sin. And Joseph is now communicating to them through a translator. So they think that Joseph cannot understand Hebrew language, and they are openly saying, confessing their sin to each other, that we should not have sold our younger brother as a slave to this place, and because of all our sin, this has come upon us, and we surely deserve all these things. So they are confessing their sin. That was the time when Joseph decides to reveal himself to them, and when he sees his elder brother Judah, who is standing as a surety for Benjamin, and he says, I'm willing to lay down my own life. Kindly let my younger brother Benjamin go. And very changed person from the time when they had sold Joseph. Now they are willing to sacrifice themselves for their younger brother. So there's a complete change of person, complete change of character among his elder brothers. And that is the point of time when Joseph reveals himself to them, and he cries and says, my name is Joseph, I am your younger brother. I am the one whom you sold as a slave to Egypt. But his elder brothers are struck with both shock and fear, because they are still thinking that Joseph may take revenge. But then we see Joseph's beautiful character in these verses. In Genesis chapter 45 verse 6 and onwards, we see a beautiful reunion between Joseph and his elder brothers, and all that bitterness and all the works of the devil now destroyed, and they're entering into their blessing. Let's read some of the verses there and see how beautiful Joseph's character is.
But now, do not therefore be grieved or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years the famine has been in the land, and there are still 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. And God sent me before you to preserve a posterity for you in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Hurry, and go up to my father, and say to him, Thus says your son, Joseph, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Do not tarry.
So as we now conclude this episode, I want you to think about the choices that we have to face in our lives. So what choices are you going to make? Are you going to choose hatred? Are you going to choose jealousy? Are you going to choose anger? Are you going to choose cruelty, which will one day lead you to bow your head in shame? Are you going to take that path? Or like Joseph, are you going to choose love over hatred, forgiveness over bitterness, and faithfulness over compromise, and joy over depression and sadness. If you make the choices which Joseph made, one day your head will be exalted, and your head will be held high, and God will lift you up, and you will end up a blessing to many people, not only to your family but to many people, even for the generations to come. They will discuss about your character, about God's nature in you, which was a great blessing for them, and also a model person whom we should follow. Joseph lived thousands of years ago, but even today we are discussing about him because of the right choices he made in his life, because of him allowing God to work in his life, and him trying to imitate the nature of God. And because of that, uh, devil's work was destroyed, and a great blessing was released. Thank you for watching. May God bless you. Make the right choices in life. Hey, don't be like Joseph's elder brothers. Okay?